Okay. All right, class. So this week we are studying chapters 7 and 8. And so we're learning about payroll, and then we're also learning about bank reconciliation. So in this very first video, we will learn about how to go ahead and process payroll. But let me first go ahead and take you into our course. So again, this week, what we'll be learning about, which is dealing with chapter 7 of our text. We'll be learning about how to add a new employee, also how to add payroll-related general ledger accounts, and also how to pay employees and record the payroll expense and the liabilities. And then we'll go ahead and study in chapter 8 how to add budget amounts to create a budget, how to create a profit and loss budget report, and how to reconcile a bank statement and how to print a reconciliation report. So again, the videos will be posted here as soon as they get edited. But you can always go back and you can listen to the recordings via the Tech Connect Zoom as well. And so again, we have the payroll walkthrough. You'll just go ahead and follow that, and that's what I'm going to work with you on in a minute. And then this time, I want you to answer 3 of the questions listed below, and then come back and do your responses. And then we have our matching activity. Then we have our case. But real quick, what I want to tell you just about, let me go ahead and stop the share for just a moment, is I realize some of you are having issues with doing the cases because sometimes your numbers aren't quite working out the way they're supposed to, and that's going to affect what happens in future, in the next chapter. So if your numbers don't come out the first time, it's affecting what's happening as you're moving forward. The numbers are still wrong. What I'm going to ask is just that you continue, working on it. If you are having trouble, you can email me, and, I will go in and try to see if I can take a look and point you in the right direction. Or when I look at your statement listing your transactions, I'll look and see, if I can find out what's happening. But make sure when you're going to put in new accounts, if they're asking you to make new accounts, that you're choosing the appropriate type of account. If it's an asset, if it's an expense, if it's an equity, etc. If it's an actual bank account, make sure you're selecting the correct type of account when you do that. That seems to be one of the common errors that students seem to be making. Then making sure that you're debiting and crediting the proper things. If you're doing journal entries, that's the other thing. Sometimes people will have that in reverse in terms of what they're crediting and debiting. And so that causes issues. It'll cause things to not work out once you go on down the line. Or of course, making sure to put in, things as vendors that are vendors, customers that are customers, and not mixing the two. That seems to be, again, those seem to be the common errors that I'm seeing. And so I know it's frustrating, but I would say just go ahead and just keep doing it, because at least that way you're at least getting the practice of doing it, and then we can work on, everything. Because I know this is hard. The one thing is to say, if you're doing this in real life, it has to be accurate. And so you do really need to take your time, and do this as though you were doing it, real life for a company. That's probably the best advice that I can give you, is just to do this as though you were doing this for a company. And obviously you do want everything to work out the way that it is supposed to. Share my screen again. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and go into our sample QuickBooks company. We'll go ahead and say that we're not a robot. We're going to open up our book to about page 147, I believe it is. And that's chapter 7, dealing with payroll. So we come back to our fictitious company, our Craig's Design and Landscaping Service. And we're going to learn how to do payroll. But again, for this, you're doing it where says you can use the trial version of QuickBooks Payroll, but it only lasts for 30 days. Even though the payroll feature available to QuickBooks Payroll are extensive and helpful, they focus on real-world companies and real time frames. Thus, this chapter will focus on the creation of new employees, general ledger accounts, and payment of employees without using QuickBooks Online Payroll. And then remember, if you stop in the middle of the work, it's not going to save it. So you need to try to do this all in one sitting. If you close it, pause too long, come back to it, you're going to lose your work. Or if you close out of it, obviously you're going to lose your work. So the first thing I need to do is I want to go ahead and add a new page 148. I want to go ahead and add a new employee. So in order to do that, what I'll do is I'll go over here on the left-hand side. I'll go ahead and click on employee and payroll, and I'll choose employees. And I see that I have 2 employees already. So then I'll go ahead and click on add a new employee. And then it's asking me if I want to turn payroll on. I don't want to, so I'm going to go ahead and choose not right now, because we're just going to learn, just the basics of this for now. And we're going to go ahead and add a new employee, and their name is May West. So first name is May, last name West. Again, the check will be made out that way. The display name will be that way. And we're going to go ahead and enter in their street address as 93 Ridge Place, number 3. And that is in Rancho Mar. And of course, that's here in California, and that's 93154. And we do have an employee number. So we'll go ahead and enter that under the employee ID field. 178. If you do get a warning that says that that's an invalid number, you just ignore it. So we did that. So once we've entered in all of their information, we can go ahead and hit save. Okay, it didn't give us a warning. So now we see Emily Platt, John Johnson, and then May West entered in here. So that's how it's really simple. You add your employees. Obviously, if it was a real employee, you're going to add more information. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're needing to set up some different accounts regarding payroll. So again, if you were to use the QuickBooks Payroll Online, which right now we're not going to do that, but if you were to use that, the general ledger accounts to capture payroll information would be created for you in the setup process. However, since you're not using QuickBooks Payroll Online, you have to create them on your own. To keep things simple, we can create a minimum of 2 accounts for payroll: the payroll expense and the payroll tax payable, which is of course the liability, because obviously the payroll tax, it's a liability, and then the actual payroll, that's the expense. So an employer agrees to pay its employees a salary per month, or they could of course earn an hourly rate also. In either case, for the agreed upon salary or hourly rate times hours worked, amounts recorded in the payroll expense account. Depending upon the state, employees are often required to have an estimated amount of federal or state income taxes withheld from their paychecks by their employers. In addition, employers must withhold Social Security tax, which is 6.2%, and Medicare 1.45%. Amounts withheld from employees will be recorded in the payroll tax payable liability account until they're remitted to the U.S. Treasury and state government agencies. Employers must match these amounts for the Social Security, which is 6.2%, and the Medicare 1.5%. And those amounts are also going to be recorded as an additional payroll expense. So, and we know this. We know that when we work, they take money out of our check, but also the employer for the Social Security and the Medicare, they also have to match it. So we'll talk about that, and we'll see how we have to do that. So that's important. So what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and go up here. We'll click on the gear, and we'll go over here to our chart of accounts. So under your company, we'll choose chart of accounts. We'll click the green button to see our chart of accounts. And I'm going to go ahead and click on the new button because I need to add a new account. And this account is going to be an expense. So we'll go ahead and choose expenses. Save the account under. And I don't believe that they have it, but if I start typing in their payroll, expenses, we'll just save it under expenses. So we'll just go ahead and say save it under expenses. And then the section that it is payroll expenses. So we'll go ahead and choose payroll expenses. I see here that there are other ways you could separate out, but you'll say save count under expenses, tax form section, payroll expenses, the account name. We're going to go ahead and just call it payroll. And you don't have a description to enter in there. So we see that it's going to add it under their payroll. So we're done with that. Then we can go ahead and click save. So we've added that account. Now, of course, you could add specific accounts, for but we won't do that. So now we want to go ahead and add a new one. So I'm going to go ahead and click up here on new. And this time it's going to be a liability. So we'll go ahead and choose liability. And then save the account under. We're going to go ahead and say it's an other current liability. So say other current liability. The tax form section is a payroll tax liability. So we see that. The account name, we're going to go ahead and call it payroll tax payable. So it's going to put it under the current liabilities section. And so it shows you here where it's going to go. So that's fine. So we'll go ahead and hit save. So we've went ahead, we've added those two accounts. But again, it's important to have the one listed as a expense and the other one is a liability. So the next thing we're going to do is actually go ahead and pay employees. So the payment of employees requires gathering information from each employee that helps determine withholding information and payroll expenses. The federal and state governments provide formulas and or tables that help employers to calculate this. And you might have done this maybe in another accounting course. You might have actually learned how to actually do payroll and how to calculate it. In this text, you will be provided these amounts. Additional tax such as training, unemployment, and so on are ignored for this illustration. Since payroll is a reoccurring event, it will help to make these checks reoccur, which can be edited for each payroll to change the hours worked when applicable. And so again, this is for when they're paid twice a month, how it works. So the first thing I'm going to do is go up here and click on the new button, and I'm going to choose check. So we're going to go ahead and write a check. So now we'll go ahead and select the payee is going to be Emily Platt, and it's actually going to be down towards the bottom. So I'm going to scroll down. So I have all the customers, all of our vendors, and then I have my employees. So I'm going to choose Emily Platt. And the date and check number are perfectly fine. And let's see. to select payroll from the drop down in the category. So we'll go ahead and add a tag as payroll. Also right here. So category, right here, category, we can type in there that's a payroll. So we'll go ahead and choose the expense payroll. And then for the category on line 1, we'll go ahead and enter in for the amount $2,500. And for category in 2, we'll go ahead and choose the payroll tax payable amount. So payroll tax payable. We'll enter in, we need to enter a negative number. So we'll go ahead and enter the amount -533.7, because the amount that the first amount here, this 2,500, that is the amount of she worked, but then we're taking off the taxes. So then we're going to go ahead and add another. We'll go ahead and do under category 1. We'll go ahead and add another payroll. And we'll go ahead and add 191.25 to it. And then we'll go ahead and do the payroll tax liability and then take it off. Under liabilities, we'll go down here and do payroll tax. And I'll explain in just a minute what this is about. Because remember, part of it is the amount, because part of this is the amount that she portioned for her Medicare and Social Security that she had to pay, and then part of it's the part that we had to pay. So we did that. That throws it out. And we've already subtracted it here, so that's why we have to enter that. So then what we want to do then is go ahead and go down here. Hold on. See, and part of this, I don't know if you can do. It says to click make reoccurring down at the bottom. Let me move the zoom. Yeah, so if you move the zoom window, you can see that we can select make reoccurring. And we can select to make it under type. We go up here and say it's unscheduled reoccurring. And let's see. So we did that unscheduled. And then it says click on, okay, right here, click on save template. So we'll do save template. So it made a reoccurring check. So then what I can do is if I click on the gear icon, I see that there's a list here, reoccurring transactions. So then I see Emily Platt unscheduled check for the amount. And that's because of, you know, her hours and stuff in her check. So then we can go ahead and click on use. It brings that up, and then we can go ahead and do save and new. We've paid her, and then we've set that up so that we can use that again. So then we'll do the same thing then for another employee. So we'll do for John and May the same way. Okay, I see what we're doing. So then the next one in, what we'll do one for John. So we'll go over here, we'll select the payee. We'll go down and we'll find John. He's under the employee, John Johnson. And we'll do that. And then we'll go down here under the categories. We'll go ahead and choose payroll. So we'll go down here and under the expenses, we'll find payroll expense. And then this would be the gross amount that we're going to pay him, which is $14.40. Okay. And then under category 2, we'll go ahead and choose the under liabilities, the payroll tax liability. And then that amount is going to be the employee withholdings, which is what we're taking out for taxes for their federal income tax. So $307.44. Okay. And then we have to record the amount for Medicare and the employer portion. So for that, we'll go over here, we'll go ahead and click on choose under the expense payroll again. And it's going to be 11016. And then we'll do a payroll tax liability. So then the net check amount should be 1132.56, and that's what it is. So we're good there. So now what we'll do is we'll go down here. We'll go ahead and choose make reoccurring. Same thing. We'll choose that it's an unscheduled, and we'll go down here to save template. So then what I'll do then is I'll go up here to my gear. I'll say reoccurring transactions. And then this was John Johnson. So we'll go ahead and choose that, and we'll click use. And then I'm going to click save and new. So now we went ahead and paid him, and then we set that up so we can make it easier for us to pay him in future. So we'll do the same thing for May. So we'll go ahead and choose our under employees. Under payee, we'll go down all the way to our employees. We'll choose May West. And then under the category, what it's for, we'll go ahead and choose payroll. And the amount, the gross amount of her payroll is $10,080. Okay. So then we'll choose the payroll tax liability. So if we go down again to the liability, so we have payroll tax liability. And that's how much the withholdings is. So it's going to be $230.58. And then we'll go ahead and account for her employer portion, which was $82.62, and payroll tax payable. We'll go ahead and choose that, and then the same thing. We'll go here, make reoccurring. It's an unscheduled, so we'll save it as a template. And again, we'll go up here, and it looks like we already have it up, but we'll click on the reoccurring transactions. So we have May West. So we'll go ahead and use. And it's got the date, everything. We just entered all those amounts. That's correct. So I'll go ahead and change it to save and close it. So we went ahead and we issued checks then for all three of those people. So now what I want to do then is to take a look at my trial balance in order to show, you know, what was paid, and then I'll be able to get a rundown of that. So I'll go ahead and click on, or actually I can go over here on the left-hand side to reports. I can find a report by name, trial balance. So I have my trial balance report. I have, you know, everything listed here. And what I would like to click on is to click on the amount that's for $2,747, which is the checking account balance. So we'll go ahead and click on that. And we see the checks that we wrote for that. And then we can click on one of the customers and one of them, and I'll go ahead and say John Johnson. I know in here it has a different name, so I don't know. But we see here, then this is an example of what we can see his payroll check, what it looks like. And so that's good. So then what we'll do then is we're done with this. So we're going to pretend that now we've done our payroll. We now want to go ahead and now, you know, we did it for today. We're going to have to pay them again in another 2 weeks. So we're going to go ahead and we'll do that. So then we'll go up here to our gear. We'll say reoccurring transactions, and we'll do May West. So we'll go ahead and hit use. And we'll add 14 days to our payment date. So today's the 11th. We'll click on the calendar. So the 12th. So we'll go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So that'd take us to the 25th. So we'll go ahead, for example, for today. So we'll go ahead and click on the 25th. And we need to change the amounts for May. So if we look at that, we're going to go ahead and change. So her gross amount then is going to be 1134. It's her gross amount. The amount that she's having taken out for tax withholding, federal state tax withholding, is going to be 4211. And then her portion, the Medicare Social Security, is 87 or 8675. Okay. So we did that. So then we went ahead, we did her payroll check. Then I'll go ahead and do a save and close. So we went ahead and we paid May, because Emily, she didn't. Okay, so actually we'll go ahead and we'll pay the other 2 employees now. So we'll go back up here. Okay, we don't even have to go up here back into the gear reoccurring because we're still on that screen. So we paid May. So we'll go ahead and do John's now. So we'll hit use. And then it already, since that was the last date that we used, it'll go ahead and keep using that check date. But we do need to change because of the number of hours and stuff that changed for him. So then again, his gross pay for John is going to be $1,500. His tax withholding is going to be $320.25. And then the payroll tax is going to be 114.75. And then we see here how much his check is. We'll go ahead and hit save and close. And it's giving us a warning about the check number. We'll go ahead and say that that's fine. And then we'll go ahead and we'll go ahead and do Emily. Now, Emily, since she's paid on salary, all of her numbers are going to be the same, so I don't need to change anything there. And then the date already is populated, so then we'll just go ahead and hit save and close. And it's giving me an error about the check number. We'll go ahead and say yes. So we have that. So again, now what I can do, because this is what I want you to turn in for this chapter, is we'll go up here and we'll go back over here to our reports and we'll run our trial balance report. We see, again, we see the amount. So under our payroll, we see the amount. And then under the payroll tax liability, we see the amount. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and click on the printer icon. You can go ahead and say this is a PDF. I'm just going to right click and cut. And I'm just going to save it on my desktop. Hold on just a second. So then I'll go ahead and go back into QuickBooks. And then I'll go ahead and click on the amount for the checking account. Then I see the paychecks that are made. But I might need to change up here. So if I change, yeah, I'm going to have to change the date range. So we'll go ahead and go to the end of the month and then run the report. Then I'll see all of the checks. So then I'll go up here and hit print. Save as PDF. Do the same thing. So we'll go ahead and this is a transaction report. So I can go ahead and right click on that and cut that and put that on my desktop so I can find it later. So then that's what I'm going to be turning in. So I'm going to go back over here. So for right now, since I'm done with this, I'm going to go ahead and click on the C and sign out of QuickBooks because I'm done right now with it for this chapter. And then I'll go ahead and click on my rocket ship and I'll select those two files. So it should be the transaction report and the trial balance. And I'll go ahead and upload those and I can hit submit assignment. So that's all I had to do with that. All right, so now what we're going to do is go ahead and switch gears and we'll start talking about chapter 8. So in chapter 8, we're learning about budgeting as well as how to perform bank reconciliations. So let me go ahead and share the screen again. So we're going to go ahead this time and work on the chapter 8 budgets and bank reconciliation walkthrough. Okay. And so again, you'll turn your book over here to page 174, or in the e-text, you'll choose 174. All right. So this time what we're going to do is we're going to learn about how to use the budgets. Now, budgets and bank reconciliation provide internal control over business activities. Significant deviations between actual and budget amounts could identify and help resolve problems. Unexpected differences identified in bank reconciliations can point to possible fraud or inconsistency issues. And that's why we do budgets and stuff, is just to make sure, you know, we're on track with our business. And then the bank reconciliation, again, is to make sure the bank didn't make any errors, we didn't make any errors, or there's not any kind of fraud and things happening. So that's why we take the time to do these things. So the first thing we're going to discuss is how to do a budget. So in this section, we're going to establish a profit and loss budget in QuickBooks Online, which tracks amounts in income and expense accounts. QuickBooks Online will interview you to determine budget amounts. You will be creating your budget from scratch since you have no historical amounts in QBO. So again, we'll go ahead and we'll open up our sample company again. So again, make sure you're on the correct assignment. We'll click on the link to open up our sample company. Again, we're going to verify that we're not a robot. And so here we are. So this time what I want to do is go ahead and click over here on the gear, and I need to choose under tools. I'm going to go ahead and choose budgeting. And since I don't have a budget already, we're going to go ahead and choose the green add budget button. And we'll go ahead for right now, we'll just call this budget 1. And in the fiscal year, that's fine. So we'll go ahead, we can leave that alone and all of that. So we have that. The rest of it is fine. So then it says click in the design income. So under design income, okay. So actually, once we have it set up, we'll go ahead and click next. So then the first thing I want to do is under design income. And again, this is a budget. We're going to type in $3,000 for our design income. Then I can click on this button right here and it will fill in for the rest of the months, because we expect that we're going to have $3,000 of design income for each month. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and add some additional amounts in the January column for our income. So for fountains and let's see here. So here, so fountain and lighting under the job materials, 2,000. And again, we go ahead and copy that across. These are for our for plants and soil, 2,000. And then let's see, maintenance and repair, 50. Their labor, maintenance and repair, 50. Pest control, 100. So pest control services. And sales of product income, 1,000. Services. So sales of product income, 1,000. Services, 400. So you can copy that across as well. So we've done all of that. And then we can go ahead and hit save. So we entered, for the first part of this, they wanted us to enter in the income section. So we've done that. So we go ahead and hit save. So you want to do that, hit save periodically when you're working in the budget, just so that QuickBooks doesn't time out and then you lose all of your information. Because we're still working on this, it didn't close it. So now we're going to look at our expenses and enter our expenses in. So the first one we'll do is for the cost of goods sold, $400 for expenses. Again, I can copy it across for the rest of the month. Advertising, 100. Automobile, 500. Equipment rental, 100. Insurance, 250. Job expenses, 1,000. Just keeps going down. We go on professional, 950. We go professional fees, 950. Click. Maintenance and repair expenses. We'll go ahead and make that 900. And then rent or lease is going to be 800. And utilities, 500. And our miscellaneous expenses. Miscellaneous expenses is going to be 3,000. So we'll go ahead and click on the arrow here and we'll go ahead and say save and close. So we now have our budget in here now. So now what I want to do is go ahead and click on our reports. We're going to go ahead and look at our budget reports now that we have a budget in here. So they have two basic budget reports, the budget overview and the budget versus actual. Budget overview only lists budget data. The budget versus actual lists budget data compared to actual transactions and put it into QBO. So we'll go ahead and click on reports. And while we do that, let me go ahead, since I'm done with these other two, I'm going to go ahead and delete them. We'll go back in here. And I would like to go down. So under reports, I'm going to go ahead and type in the search. I'm going to type in their budget. And I see budget overview and the actual. So what we can do is go ahead and look at the budget overview and customize. And what I want to customize is add under the rows and columns. I want to show the accounts and the totals under the show grid. So show grid, we'll go ahead and select that. And then we'll go ahead and hit run report. Then we can hit collapse. So it just shows just the main headings there. And then I want to change the dates of the report to be from from the beginning of the month to the end of the month. So we just do 7/1 to the end of the month. So 7/31. So we'll go ahead then and hit run report. So we have then just the budget for the month. And so we see that. Then we go back up here to customize the report. We'll say without cents. So we'll hit run report again. So then it looks like that. And then what we can do is go ahead and go up here and save the customization. So we'll say save customization. And we'll go ahead and change the report name. We'll call it budget overview. So we'll go ahead and we'll save that. And that's it. So then we'll go ahead and hit save. And they want us to do another one, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and click on the print icon. And I'm going to go ahead and save and print, and not print this, but export it as a PDF just so that I can have it to turn in. So we'll turn in the budget overview report. So we'll go ahead and close out of that. So now we're going to go ahead and do another report, which is the budget versus actual. So we'll go ahead and click on reports. Again, I'll search for budget. And this time we're going to do the budget versus actuals. But you see here that we have budget overview customized. That's the version that we just looked at. But we'll do the budget versus actual. And that gives us that. And what I want to do is go ahead and click collapse to collapse everything down. And I want to go ahead and customize it. So I'll go ahead and click on customize. And I want to change the dates again to be the beginning of January or July, excuse me, the beginning of July to the end of July. Okay. And again, under the show grid, I want to do the accounts and the total. And I want it to show without cents. Make sure that is selected. So then I can go ahead and hit run report. it's going to go ahead and do it again just for the month. And then we'll go up here first, we'll do save customization. And we'll go ahead and call this let's call it budget versus actuals. And hit save. And then again, I'm going to go ahead and print this. So I'll click on the print button, save this PDF. And I'll save the file. That's what one of the things I'm going to have you turn in to me. There it is. So we did that. So we'll close that. Now we're going to go ahead and we'll just keep working, but now that's the end of the budgeting. So now we're going to look at how to do our bank reconciliation. So bank reconciliation, good internal control requires frequent reconciliation between bank records and a company's records of cash receipts and payments completed by someone other than the accountant or bookkeeper who is responsible for maintaining accounting records. This process involves comparing items that appear on the checking account with those items appearing on the bank statement. Deposits that appear in the checking account but don't appear on the banking statement are referred to as deposits in transit. Checks that appear in the checking account but do not appear in the bank statement are referred to as outstanding checks. They usually appear as checks on the next bank statement. Sometimes, say there's a time between when you send a check and when it actually gets deposited. In QBO, if you discover that a deposit recorded by the bank but not recorded in the checking account determined to be an error in the checking account, you should correct the checking account by recording the deposit. Likewise, if you discover a check recorded by the bank that's not recorded in the checking account determined to be an error in the checking account, you should record it by recording a check. And so in the following example, neither were identified. So in this example, everything was as it should be. So to do that, to do the bank reconciliation, what we're going to do is we'll go up here, we'll click on the gear, and we'll choose reconcile under tools. Okay. So then what we'll do is we'll go ahead and click on get started. And I think we can go ahead and click on the X here because we don't want to, it's wanting to have us connect to a bank account, and I don't want to do that. So now what we'll do is in step 5, because we're now on the area where we would do that. They want us to go ahead and enter in the ending date. Which for us, we can go ahead and click on be for the end of the month. So we'll go ahead and click on the end of the month. And the ending balance, which is going to be 1926.41. So we'll click start reconciling. So the reconcile checking form shows up, it should appear. So we see here what that looks like. So after a review of the company's most recent bank statement and comparison of the checking account records, you discover some checks and payments recorded in the checking account do not appear on the bank statement. Click on the payments tab, so we'll click on payments right here. We want to look at payments. So this shows us all the payments that have gone out. And I want to place a check mark next to all the checks and payments except check number 13 for Hicks Hardware, in the amount of $215.66, check number 75 to Hicks Hardware, $228.75, and check to Pam Seats for $75. And none of those have cleared the bank. So you're going to check everything except the items that have not cleared the bank. So we'll go ahead and we'll click. What may be better is to go ahead and select all the transactions, and then we can deselect those that did not clear. So we had one here for, we can do the reference number, sort by the reference number, because that would help us. So we said it checked 13 hadn't cleared, so we'll go ahead and we'll uncheck the box on that. And then that's going to change the numbers here. And we'll go ahead and also deselect the check 75, which was for Hicks Hardware. So go ahead and uncheck that. And also check 76, professional and legal. We'll go ahead and deselect that because none of those checks have cleared. Okay. So we're done now with the checks. Everything else has cleared. So then we'll go ahead and we'll click on our deposits. And we see that there are some of them that have not cleared. So again, I'm going to go ahead and maybe easier just to go ahead and select all of them and then just deselect the ones that haven't cleared. So the ones that haven't cleared is a payment 1886 from Cool Cars. So we'll go ahead and deselect that. And we will go ahead, and that's the only one that hasn't cleared. So now we can go ahead and click on the All tab, and then that shows everything there. Again, we see the items, the checks that have not cleared are unchecked, as well as the payment that hadn't cleared. So that's good. We're done with that. So then what we can do is we can go up here at the top, and we can go ahead and say finish now. So we're finished with our bank reconciliation. So we'll go ahead and say finish now. So go ahead and say add adjustment, and then we'll go ahead and hit done. So we've done that now. So now what we can do is we'll go ahead and look in our, we can click on this history by account. We see the bank reconciliation that we just did. And then under actions, we can go ahead and click view report. So then we have the report of what exactly we did. And we can go ahead and print this out. So we'll click on the printer icon. And then what I can do is either, saying that you may not be able to do, but we could click on the selection here for printer. And if you have either save to PDF or you have Microsoft print to PDF, you can use that. But I'm just going to go ahead and say I want to print it to PDF. And I'll go ahead and hit save. And we just call it reconcile. So it's going to create a PDF of that and save it. So we did that. So that's it for that. So then I can go ahead and close out of my sample company, because then I should have 4 things to turn in. So I'm going to have the budget overview, actual budget, the actual in that one, and my bank reconciliation. So I'm going to go ahead and submit all three of those files, and then I'll hit submit assignment. And that's it. So again, if you need help with anything, please make sure that you reach out to me, and then you can set up a time, probably will have to be in the evening, but you can set up a time with me to where I can get on here and I can help you through it. So I'll talk to you guys later. So bye for now.